Have you guys noticed that in the past few years, there has been a rise in the number of overpowered protagonists in Japanese anime? It's almost becoming a trend. One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100, Saiki Kusuo, Overlord. I can go on for another minute just recounting the amount of anime with overwhelmingly powerful main characters. Now don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of anime with the typical underdog as the protagonist, and a lot of them are really great. But the thing is, the idea of an unrivaled protagonist in an anime was not a prevalent idea back in the early 2000s and 90s. In fact, most of the really popular ones comes from the late 2010s. Wow, 2010s. Can't believe it's almost 2021. Anyway, in this video, I want to discuss why I think these anime are gaining popularity these days, from both a more shallow and a more in-depth perspective. Alright, right off the bat, it's quite easy to pinpoint what makes these anime series popular. They are fun. The movie and anime industry have been flourishing over the past decade. Thousands of amazing ideas and plot settings have been created constantly every day. But also because of that, it's much harder to create interesting plot and settings without some overlap with other series. Thus, writers have been trying to, well, to quote the famous author William Sapphire, avoid cliches like the plague. Needless to say, a character that can defeat any monster in one punch, or a character that has all the psychic power imaginable is an eye-catcher for sure when there is an excess demand for originality in creation. So how do writers keep their series interesting with such a boring protagonist that won't be challenged at any given place or time? Well, they downgrade the protagonist into a side character. The way this works is that the show revolves around and takes on the name of the protagonist, but for the majority or at least half of the show, the anime focuses on the side characters or even the enemies of the protagonist. The protagonist is not outshined by the side characters, as they will show up at the most critical scene and, depending on the relationship the protagonist has with the character, either saves the day or ruins a man's career. When you have an understanding or connection with the side characters and the universe settings of a particular anime, it's a much more satisfying experience to see how ridiculously out of place the protagonist's character setting is. If the side character only seemed like some throwaway villain that serves little to enhance our understanding of the anime's universe, you end up with Sword Art Online. Another reason people like to see these characters is the fact that people are just tired of plot armor. When the show establishes who the main characters are, you can usually assume that they are not gonna die no matter what, and that's understandable. It doesn't make sense to kill off a character that you spend the whole show depicting. After all, if people actually watch the anime, most likely they've taken a liking towards the main character. I think that's why overpowered protagonists are gaining popularity right now. If the protagonist is just not gonna die anyway, how about we drop the bullshit and tell the viewers right off the bat that they are not gonna die because they're overpowered. As the famous comedian George Carlin once said, people like that bullshit right out front where they can get a big strong sniff at it. That's why it's so refreshing and desirable to see overpowered protagonists that is aware of how strong he is, so that when we watch the show we'll think, well, at least he's honest. So now I want to talk about my theory on the reason these anime series are gaining popularity. Our society is progressing at lightning speed every day. We as a species manage to get out of the food chain and thus doesn't need to fear about our mortality every day. But that also gives us too much free time to think and do whatever we want. A lot of people try to find meaning in life by working diligently in their field and compete for a better work title and a better pay, so that they can pursue better life quality and better reputation among friends and peers. Some people choose to indulge themselves in luxury and entertainment in order to achieve the greatest pleasure they can experience. Some people choose to do both, and I think the definition of overpowered is the manifestation of such competition and indulgence. I think when people watch these kinds of shows, deep down they want to know what happens when you reach a state where there is no longer any competition, or that there is no longer a greater pleasure that you can experience. Given there are very few people that can actually reach this state, this is quite an elitist dilemma that doesn't really affect the majority of the population. What I see in a lot of these shows is that the protagonists sooner or later learn to take responsibilities and help others. Let me use a real-life example. One of the most unrivaled boxing champions, Mike Tyson. With a record of 50 wins and 6 losses, he is one of the few people that has reached the state of overpowered in terms of status, income, and accomplishments in his field. At first, he indulged in pleasure by taking cocaine, buying fancy houses and vehicles. He even got a tiger as a pet at some point. However, in a recent interview, Mike Tyson admits that he is ashamed of his past and prefers not to look back at the person he once was.
But kind of had to happen for you to be who you are now.
Yeah, but no, it's because people, this is the real reason, right, Joe? People love that guy.
Yeah.
You know, people love that. I didn't like that guy that much. So I have conflicting with people that like that guy and me living my life that I am living now.
Yeah.
He calls his medals and trophies garbage, and he said that the only thing that matters to him now is to provide for his family and raise his daughter. Now let's go back to anime. The story of Mike Tyson aligns well with the fact that Saitama, who is able to defeat any monster in one punch, learns that he should use his powers to do good instead of looking for excitement in battle at the end of season 2. And I think deep down, we all want to understand what else is there in life besides competition and indulgence. And maybe that's why we watch these shows. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Let me know if you have any comments about my theory on why overpowered protagonists are so popular in Japanese anime. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing as I make these videos every week. Alright, that's it, and I'll see you next time.